I don't count. I don't.
Hello, my fellow Alaskans. We are live here. I am trying to get things set up, so bear with me. I might hear a few noises moving around, jolting, everything else along those lines. We are now live here at AMAC meeting. All right, I just want to make sure everything is sounding right here before we get started. Oh yeah, really picking up the noise now. Gonna have to turn the volume down on this one. All right, thank you all for joining us here today. I'm here at the Wasilla Senior Center, and we are just about ready to begin with the normal monthly meeting that happens the second Tuesday of every month. I'm trying to do a live stream for both the Anchorage and the Valley chapters of AMAC, and to make sure that their messages are being heard by the senior citizens of Alaska. I do appreciate and thank you all for being here today. It is wonderful to have you here. As you may have read on my post for the message for the live stream, if you haven't gone that far yet, but the message that I have up above, I'm looking to take this to the next level for Politadick and start live streaming to all the different platforms out there on media, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, you name the social media platform you can live stream to. I am looking to put it all in one big canned package and go live on all of them at the exact same time, so that way we can get our biggest spread of the message out there of what's happening here with Alaska and our Alaska politics and what do Alaskans think. I do appreciate y'all for tuning in here today. Don't forget to like and share this video. You're liking, you're sharing. That's what makes sure most Alaskans are going to be able to see and hear what's going on, uncut, unfiltered, just like I did yesterday with the very first what you would call illegal session to hear about the future budget of the fiscal year 2021-2022 that the governor proposed. They had the old House majority legislation, the old guard, the ones that we had voted out and whatnot, sitting in a room listening to all this going on. Looks like they're about ready to begin, so I will head on over.
I wish we could. You can become voters, which the people down in Georgia sure as hell.
You are live, senor.
I appreciate that. Okay, folks, it's 11 o'clock. Who would like to open up with prayer?
I can.
Okay.
You want me to?
Please.
I gotta bring it up on my, Here we go. Sorry about that. Dear Almighty Father in heaven, bless all the people in attendance, and especially those that truly put their lives in harm's way on a daily basis to make our lives safer. We are so thankful for your love. Please continue to guide us as we strive every day to live your will. These things we ask in your holy name. Amen.
And do you want to do the Pledge of Allegiance? Open us up. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, all you do is start and follow. And if you're retired military or a veteran, hand salute.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we got a jam-packed day today, and we got a lot to discuss. I have no special speakers or anything else, other than the two. They'll give a short, and I know Cathy said This will be very short because they don't really know exactly what they're going to be doing yet. But basically we're going to go over the latest, greatest from the state on the vaccine availability, how they're working that, and then of course we're going to be talking about the election and January 6th and what we're looking at in the future. So the first thing, but the one thing that's on the agenda that you guys don't know about is, yes. Oh yeah, we need treasurer's report, and also we're going to get the envelope passed around again. I know everybody has great intentions of putting money in the jar. You get talking to people and you walk out and you completely forget it. So we'll just pass the envelope for donations for the chapter.
Okay. Last month we collected $96, and we also made a donation to the Alaska Watchman. Joel was here. So that leaves a balance of $774.56. And I'll start passing the envelope. If you just keep it going around, I sure would appreciate it. And if anybody wants to write a check, please come and see me, because it has to be a certain way in order for me to be able to cash it. And if you want a receipt for your donation, come and see me for that too.
How many people are here new for the first time? Anybody? Okay, so what's going on with stays in the chapter. We use that money for copy and stuff like that. Also, I end up having to fly down to the lower 48 for the annual convention for AMAC. That helps out with that. That helps out defer some of that cost, because that's a pretty spendy, especially this one that's hopefully coming up October. So that's gonna be kind of a spendy flight. So that'll help out as well. So that's what that money's for. It does not go to AMAC itself down in Florida. It stays right here within our chapter within the state of Alaska. Okay? Okay. Cathy, would you please come up? To Representative Cathy Tilton from the Matsu Chapter AMAC Action. Whereas, for standing for not just the people of District 12, but all the Matsu and state of Alaska. Whereas, in doing so, you stood for the issues near and dear to the mature citizens of Alaska. Whereas, we know that you will continue representing all the people of Alaska with even greater wisdom because of the valuable experience you have gained. Whereas, you have always been there to tell it like it is at the Matsu Chapter AMAC Action meetings and have always answered tough questions. In appreciation, be it known that Representative Cathy Tilton is presented this day the commemorative gold coin of President Donald J. Trump by the members of the chapter of AMAC.
Oh my goodness, thank you. Thank you very much. You told me I was just giving an update.
I did that on purpose.
Thank you
And
so
that's
much.
for you.
Thank you very much. And
Do you want to give an update? Because I'm waiting for the...
yeah, Mike brought me in under the auspice of giving an update. So thank you so much. This really means a lot to me. Yeah, really does. I'll give you just a quick outlook. We are right now in the middle of transition. I think you'll find that a lot of the legislators are on their way to Juneau. It's questionable what will happen as far as this session and what it will look like. Again, that's going to depend on what the leadership ends up looking like. Right now, I'm not in agreement with what's going on in the Legislative Council as far as the lockdown of the building. Those are rules that were instituted by the Legislative Council of the 31st Legislature, and until we have an organization where we have leadership that can go in and make some changes. That's what they are at this point. It's very frustrating for everybody, and it's one of the great big reasons why the Capitol, or at least the legislative session, should be on the road system. In my opinion, it should be there, and the public should always be invited to come into the building. The scare tactics are rampant and hugely going on in Juneau. It's difficult even for people finding places, and another thing is that we're all sojourning to Juneau, not knowing if we're going to end up doing remote voting or anything like that. At this point, people say, well, why aren't we doing remote voting? We don't have anything in our rules and guidelines and that allow us to vote remotely. So we'll have to actually meet one time, at least one time together as a body to take an election on being able to remote vote. There has been some interesting concepts about how that would look. I will tell you that remote vote, I will come back to my home and sit in my home district. I will not remote vote from Juneau. That's ridiculous. So as far as the organization as the House goes, and I can't speak to the Senate because I'm not a part of the Senate, and I try to stay out of what's happening there, although it does have a little bit of effect on what happens in the House. As far as we are right now, still, as I think everybody is aware, at basically a 2020 deadlock. Not the same as last 2 years ago, because this year we have, last 2 years ago we had eight people who chose to go and caucus in a coalition with the Democrats and the Independents. And in this session right now, we have 20 people who are locked arms together, and it does not look like anybody will be heading over to build a coalition that would be Democrat-led. So we're tighter, we're stronger, we're working hard, and hopefully we will be able to put that leadership team together and that caucus together before the start of session. But I don't expect to see anything happen until right up to the end, because it's just going to be a matter of it's a very big chess game and a matter of weight and pressure, and as that builds up. But I guarantee you, nobody wants to go into session without a leadership team. But I'm just really proud of the people that I'm working with, that they are locked arms and that we are strong and not willing to break. So that's going to make the difference.
What's the latest on Lance Pruitt? I saw a headline about the Supreme Court.
Yeah, Lance's was kind of a Hail Mary for us. We were kind of hoping that Lance's case would come up with a conclusion that there would be a new election in that District 27, but the Supreme Court did rule that there would not be, that he did not have enough evidence to prove that there was any challenges in that district. So shake our heads. That was the bad news kind of just keeps coming, but we have to hold our heads up high, because in the words of my pastor, who I am looking to for strength, he said, it's not everything that's happening is important, and everything happening in politics is important, but what's important is how we treat each other and how we are as a community. So I'm just holding our head, we're holding our heads up high. We were pretty disappointed, and that is one of the big reasons we need judicial reform, and something else to look forward to. And it's very important that the conservatives do take the majority, because there are things such as elections reform, judicial reform, all of those big items that are on the table, that we want to make sure that we're running that agenda, and not the other way around. So with that, I'm going to apologize that, again, I'm going to say thank you so much. This really, seriously, you didn't tell me this. This really touches my heart, and thank you for everything each one of you guys do, because I know every one of you, because you're here, are activists and involved in your community, and just, keep talking to your friends and neighbors and getting them involved, and always be in contact with your legislators. Sometimes people say, well, they're so busy. They're not that busy. They're not that busy. We're busy, but we should never, ever be too busy to talk to our constituents and to the people who elected us and into office. So if they're that busy, then you need to wonder why. Gotta say. So, but on that note, talking about too busy, I am heading to my, I have my first baby grandson. He was born on December 11th, 10 weeks early. So he was born 2 pounds, 2 pounds 8 ounces. He is now up to 4 pounds. And today is his baby shower, so I am going to have to say goodbye and head out and go take care of my little grandbaby. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Kat. Tom, come on up. Yes, you. Is Robert Coulter here yet?
I haven't seen him.
Okay.
Mike, he told me he'd see me Tuesday, so I don't think he's coming.
Yeah, I know. We texted and he said he was going to come.
He usually comes.
Come on, Tom.
What do you want to do? I don't want to go.
Come here.
I don't want to go up here.
Come here. Come and see Cal.
Get no.
Turn around and face the crowd. 2, Thomas Wood, from the Matsu Chapter AMAC Action. Whereas Tom started with volunteering to take on communications for the members of the Matsu Chapter of AMAC Action. Whereas the Vice President left, Tom stepped up as both VP and communications. Tom has been in the background ensuring that future meetings, communications from the President got out to all members in a timely and accurate manner. Be it known that Vice President and Communications of the Matsu Chapter AMAC Action, Thomas Wood, is presented this date the commemorative gold coin of President Donald J. Trump by the members of the Matsu Chapter of AMAC Action. Want to say anything?
Thank you. That's all I'm good for.
Chuck Foster, would you please come up? Yes, Chuck. Yes, you.
I'm working now.
I know that, but we got this is important. To Chuck Foster, from the Matsu Chapter AMAC Action. Whereas our AMAC Action chapter has been able to count on the use of WASI pre-China virus and post. Whereas WASI has never charged our chapter. Whereas the ability to use audio-video capabilities that have been instrumental in our ability to have guest speakers. Whereas the director of WASI, Chuck Foster, has gone above and beyond the call to support our chapter. Be it known that Chuck Foster presented this date the commemorative gold coin of President Donald J. Trump by members of the Matsu Chapter of AMAC Action. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, folks.
And just so you know, when Shelley Hughes gets here and Robert Coulter get here, they're getting gold coins too. Carol. To Carol Halsey from the Matsu Chapter AMAC Action. Whereas Carol volunteered to be the Matsu Chapter AMAC Action Treasurer. Whereas Carol brought with her the ability to handle the funds for the chapter in a way that is above reproach. Whereas Carol has been the treasurer since the start of this chapter and has performed in an exemplary manner. In appreciation, be it known that Carol Halsey has presented this date the commemorative silver coin of President Donald J. Trump by members of the Matsu Chapter of AMAC Action. And I knew it got the gold, except it ran out of gold.
It ran out of gold. I'll take this. I'm happy. Thank you very much.
Faye, front and center. I really wanted to do this last month, but the doggone coins didn't come in until after the meeting. To Faye Graham Voice from the Matsu Chapter AMAC Action. Whereas Faye took on being the delegate for the Matsu Chapter AMAC Action. Whereas her role as delegate meant working with Alaska delegation Senators Dan Sullivan, Lisa Wilkowski, and Congressman Don Young as to the communications on chapter and national issues, as well as setting up meetings with the chapter. Whereas even with situations beyond her control rose, and she could no longer be the official delegate, Faye still performed duties in communicating with the Alaska delegation on behalf of the Matsu chapter AMAC action. In appreciation, be it known that Faye Graham Voice is presented this date the commemorative silver coin of President Donald J. Trump by the members of the Matsu chapter of AMAC action.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Do you
Can I
want to?
read this?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a good segue.
Okay, just hold that for a second. You may know that Senator Dan Sullivan's father passed away a few weeks ago, and our chapter, along with the Anchorage chapter, sent a sympathy condolence card, and we got a reply back from Dan. And I just wanted to share that with all of you because the card that was sent was from all of us, plus all of the people in Anchorage, AMAC Anchorage. They write, "Thank you for your kind words of condolence regarding my father's passing. My dad was the #1 role model in my life who inspired me in so many ways. Patriotic military service, 59 years of faithful marriage to my mom, hard work, giving back to his community, respect for all, and a man of deep faith. We will all miss him, but find comfort in knowing that he is now reunited for eternity with my beautiful mom, who we lost last year to Alzheimer's." I did not know that. "I appreciate you all taking the time to reach out to me, and I'm thankful for your thoughts and prayers. I hope you have a blessed and peaceful holiday season. Sincerely, Dan Sullivan, United States Senator."
That's good. Okay. Now we're going to get into some information. I just got this in yesterday. And this is through the Alaska Commission on Aging, which most of you know that I'm a commissioner on as well, so I wear two hats. This is your president and on the commission. So there's been some pre-filed bills that are coming up. Representative Hannon, who's the Democrat, she's come up with one relating to professional and occupational licensing and relating to protection of children and vulnerable adults. Not really sure what that's all about. These are all hot off the press. I have not had a chance to look at them. The other one is relating to, and this one we're pretty sure we're all going to be going not know but hell no on, relating to the taxation of income of individuals, partners, shareholders, and S-corps, trusts, and estates, relating to a payment against the individual income tax from the permanent fund distribution, repealing tax credits applied against the tax on individuals under the Alaska Net Income Tax Act, and providing for an effective date. That's until we can see, I can really see the language, but just looking at taxation, we're not going to support it. Representative Thompson, Republican, was on the coalition last year with the Democrats. But he's now back with the Republicans. He put forward a bill relating to the licensure of nursing professionals, relating to a multi-state nurse licensing compact. That one is really important because we got a lot of military people coming up with their wives that are nurses or other professionals, and they have a real hard time getting licensed. Yes, ma'am.
I was going to say, the last I heard is that Alaska Board of Nursing has refused that because they don't want to take away from their nurses here.
Right.
And that's exactly what
they fought against it last year.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, they fought against it last year.
Right.
This is a reinstatement of the same bill. Yeah.
Okay.
This is the new. These are this is for 2021. Yeah. Then we got Representative Josephson. Everybody knows who Josephson is, right? Probably one of the biggest. I bet the only person that's more socialist than him is maybe Tar. Anyway, he's requiring the state medical assistance program to provide services relating to cost containment of the state medical assistance program, relating to payment for adult dental services. I think that sounds like Medicaid, so I'm not really sure about that. And it's coming, if it's coming from Andy, I'm pretty sure that we're not going to be in support of that. Then this one, I think we definitely want to get behind. And I've talked to George about this myself, and but now it's in writing. Representative George Rauscher out of Sutton, relating to elections and voter registration, relating to ballot custody, retention, and destruction, prohibiting possession of another voter's ballot, which is ballot harvesting, requiring signature verification, establishing an election offense hotline, and providing for an effective date. That one I think is going to be, we need to get behind. I understand that there's a Senate companion bill coming on that as well. From the Senate, Senator Kawasaki, everybody knows who he is, right? Relating to retirement incentives for members of the defined benefit retirement plan of the teachers' retirement system and defined benefit retirement plan of the public employees retirement system of Alaska. I got a big question mark on that one. And again, if it's coming from Kawasaki, I have a real hard problem with it and would have a hard time supporting. SB 26 is from Senator David Wilson. This is a repeat from last year. George Rauscher tried to push this through as well. Repealing the Certificate of Need program for health care facilities, making conforming amendments. That one is there where there's a deal that says that you have to come up with all these reasons why you want to have an additional nursing home or assisted living home or another clinic, doctors, hospital, whatever. So they wanted to get rid of that. That was done last year. It didn't go through. A lot of this stuff didn't even get hearings. I think that one didn't even get a hearing. Senator Begich, requiring that a policy of group health insurance covering certain public employees and teacher retirees, including coverage for colorectal cancer screening. On the surface, that's probably, it might not be a bad thing. What's the cost? We'll have to see. Senator Keel, another Democrat, relating to the restoration of tenure for certain disabled individuals relating to the public employees retirement system of Alaska and the teachers retirement system, providing certain employees an opportunity to choose between the defined benefit and defined contribution plans of the public employees retirement system of Alaska, the teachers retirement system. So that one's we need to really look at that one really close before we come up with a decision. This just came out today from the Department of Health and Human Services. The Matsu Borough and Matsu area community partners announced a vaccine appointment for 65 and above. And we'll be talking about that a little bit later as well. This is dated January 8th. Today, the DHS is announcing a point of dispensing but the vaccination clinic that will take place in the Matsu Borough at the Alaska State Fairgrounds Raven Hall. The clinic will be supported by the Matsu Department of Emergency Services, Matsu Community Emergency Response Team, Matsu Regional Medical Center, the Alaska State Fairgrounds, the DHSS Matsu Public Health Center. The dates on this will be January 12th for 300 appointments, January 14th for 600 appointments, January 19th for 800 appointments, and January 21st for 800 appointments. Open registration for all other eligible Alaskans will begin noon Monday, January 12th through the online scheduling system at covidvax.alaska.gov. If you need assistance scheduling and you don't have a computer, or you sit there and you look at that and you just pull your hair out, you can call, if you want to write this down, for those who want to write down, 646-3322. You'll end up leaving a message, and then they're supposed to get back with you in a timely manner to help set you up an appointment. So that's going to be of a big help. Again, I'm not advocating the vaccine. Let me be very, very clear before we go any further. I am advocating that all seniors, all mature Alaskans, 65 or 60 and above, really, but 65 and above, have the opportunity to take the vaccine as they choose to. That's it. That's all I'm going to go. I'm not going to. Neil, go ahead. Nick, go ahead.
There's a lot of information out there. Some of it's bogus. I don't know what you want to believe. Everybody chooses to believe this source or that source, whatever you want. But the best one I've seen, because it knits all of this together, is a YouTube thing out. And the lady, her name is Christine Augusta Fitz. It's a full interview about planetary lockdown. It's about how it all fits together. The virus, the vaccine, the banking, the military. It's been going on for a long time. It's on YouTube. Anybody wants the information there, that's all it is. It just tells you where to go on YouTube. Put it in there. You look at it. You decide what you want to do. Okay? It's up to everybody to make your own decision on this, because we're at a crossroads here. All right? You don't know what to believe. I know what I believe because I have to go inside to figure out that person's lying, that person's telling me the truth. All right? Don't have them put something in you unless you decide that's what you want and you're willing to deal with whatever consequences come from doing it or not. Because there will be consequences either way you go. So, good luck, my friends. Hope you can get the truth.
Chuck just brought up that if you want to go to if you can get an appointment there at the fairgrounds, and you don't have transportation, and you have some transportation needs, get hold of Chuck and he'll help you out with that. Gary, real quick.
You said Monday the 12th. Monday is the 11th. Yep.
No, Tuesday the 12th. Excuse me. Tuesday the 12th.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
'Cause I knew that was AMAC day.
Right. Yeah. All I'm going to say, and what you said was, straightforward and above board. What I'm running into is, especially on Facebook, is when I talk about getting the vaccine for me and my wife, I get belittled by my own conservatives. I am not going to put up with that, and I come back on them like a ton of bricks. Damn it all, we're conservatives. And we all make our own choices. We know that the Constitution and the Bill of Rights is about choices. So I encourage all of you to research, to discuss, cuss, whatever you have to do to make an informed decision. Talk to your doctors. See what your doctors have to say. I got a friend of mine in Chattanooga. His doctor says no way he's going to take it. That's his doctor. And his doctor laid it out for him, and Tom decided not to take it. That's informed decision making. But this whole thing is being turned on its head. Some of it is righteous, some of it isn't. Like you said, there's a lot of disinformation out there as well. So all I'm doing is I'm giving you information that if you want the vaccine, this is what's going on. Understood? Yes, sir.
Does anybody here have any knowledge about the
wonderful appointment system they got set up.
I'm going to be going into that as well.
Okay, because we're on their waiting list. Does
I know.
that mean I'll get kicked over for Raven Hall, or I've got?
Yeah, maybe that you very well may be. That's what this letter even talked about.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so then this was dated January 6th to Alaskan seniors 65 and above. Today at noon, scheduling opened for Alaskans who are 65 and older for appointments. Again, that number is 646-3322 if you have a hard time navigating the internet, because you can go to COVID Vax, that's covidvax.alaska.gov, and go through that. I guess that's kind of I've done it. It's unless you really have a good handle on websites and all that good stuff, it can get really frustrating. So that's why I'm giving you out that phone number to call them as well. I want to be talking about this 65 and older bit here in a second. These two things that I'm going to be bringing up. Oh, a minute. This is from Dr. Zane. These two articles are from the Washington Examiner, right around December 29th. This is an excerpt of one of the articles. Federal Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices has been made to prioritize essential workers after healthcare workers and nursing home residents are vaccinated. This is what you hear, the ACIP committee out of the CDC. The deciding factor for proposing essential workers over people with high-risk medical conditions and those aged 65 and older was mitigating health inequities. Let me repeat that. Mitigating health inequities. In practice, that means fighting long-standing systemic health and social inequities among racial and ethnic minorities. Prioritizing essential workers would do that, according to ACIP, since Black people and Latinos are more likely to contract and die from the COVID-19 than white people, and because a much larger proportion of essential workers are minorities as compared to those 65 and older. I'm going to read another article, but I want to touch on that one just really fast. I came into the United States Air Force in 1971. That was the height of civil unrest and civil rights movement. And we had racism in the Air Force in 1971. And it was both white and black. It was black on white, it was white on black. I remember that if you were black, you ended up being a cook or a truck driver. There was a lot of stuff going on in 1971. But then we started working. Then they came up with social actions, which was a total goat rope at first. But we made that happen. I was a young airman at the time. Then that came into effect. I was a young NCO at the time. And up through the time I made up my ranks up to tech sergeant, I worked hard along with everybody else to stop. If I saw racism, I didn't give a hoot and holler. If it was white on black, black on white, Hispanic on white, white on Hispanic, whoever. If I saw it, they got hammered. And a lot of NCOs and a lot of good officers, especially middle management officers and NCOs, we worked our butt off to get rid of overt racism in the United States Air Force. There's always going to be covert, but we worked really hard to get rid of overt racism. And for the CDC and for the AVAAC, which is the Alaskan version of that, to do the same thing, to bring back racism when we got a disease that has killed, what is it now, 200 some odd thousand people? And we don't know if those numbers are accurate, so I'm not going to get into it, but that's That's the published number. And to turn around and make that into a racial and a social inequities issue is unconscionable. And I'm fighting like crazy against it. Again, from the Washington Examiner. Several red states are eschewing federal recommendations for vaccine distribution and prioritizing the elderly and vulnerable over essential workers in the hopes of saving more lives. That came out to be Texas, Florida, South Dakota, Tennessee were the first four. Ohio, Colorado came on board on the 30th. That the priority was 65 and older or 60 and older. Why? Because we have been told since day one that this came out that the most vulnerable were the 60 and above. We were scared. They used scare tactics that we were going to die if we got this thing. And people did. There's no doubt about it. People did die from this virus. We were told if we just mitigate some more. We just keep mitigating. We become hermits. We stay at home. We don't socialize. We don't go out. We don't be people. We're social animals. We'll get those vaccines to you. We're going to work really hard to make sure that you're taken care of. And what happens? The ACIP through the CDC, as well as this state volunteer group that I'll be talking about a little bit more, they turn around and say, oh, we have to give this to electrical workers. We have to give this to truck drivers that are pushing snow. We have to give this to teachers that are not even teaching face-to-face. It's just a whole litany of special interests. And I fought like crazy for you. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But that's what's going on. And those 6 states stood for their seniors. The ACIP is the committee under the CDC charged with recommending how vaccines should be used, while the ACIP's suggestions do not have the force of law. They have long influenced which vaccine private insurers and the federal government will pay for. There were discussions among the CDC that actually had a proposal to place, quote, younger essential workers ahead of elderly individuals. Now that has met with deservedly a lot of backlash. Governor DeSantis said, if you're 22 years old and working in a grocery store, you take precedence over 74-year-old grandma? End quote. I don't think that's the direction we want to go to Florida. We've got to put our grandparents first. Again, this is availability, if you want it or not. The ACIP had initially proposed that only essential workers be prioritized after healthcare workers and long-term residents and staff. It based that proposal on the fact that significantly more essential workers are racial and ethnic minorities. The ACIP argued that vaccinating them first would help address health inequities. The proposal received considerable backlash, especially from critics who alleged that it put lives at risk over racial considerations. I'd rather save lives than satisfy racial criteria, said Linda Gorman, director of the Healthcare Policy Center at the Conservative Independence Institute. I'm glad there are some states that decided to save lives. Ultimately, the ACIP decided to prioritize those 75 and older and a subset of essential workers, including firefighters, police officers, corrections officers, food and agricultural workers, postal service, manufacturing workers, grocery store workers, public transit workers, and teachers. It's a difficult question to who to prioritize, since essential workers are younger and at a lower risk of dying if they develop COVID, said Dr. Jane, an infectious disease physician at Rollins School of Public Health. However, they are at a higher risk of contacting disease, but in my opinion, the risk and benefits of vaccinating essential workers versus the elderly balance out. I think I've shot that horse and buried him, haven't I? So, the VAAC, which stands for, I'm trying to figure out what it stands for. It's the Alaska Vaccine Allocation Advisory Committee. They came out with their initial recommendation. Oh, and I want to make sure that this gets understood quite well. Who belongs? And this is a volunteer committee. This is not appointed by the governor. This is not appointed by AMAC. This is not appointed by the public health director. This is a volunteer bunch that came forward to work on this issue. Guess who one of their members is? Anybody want to take a guess on a major senior organization that stands for seniors all the time? AARP. AARP did nothing. I'm going to be reading some of the quotes from the minutes. AARP was not there for their seniors. AMAC is.
Yes. Yay. Go team.
What they did was they came up on December 2nd, they came up with a recommendation that Phase 3, 1A should be offered to healthcare personnel and residents of long-term facilities. Phil, I can't remember Phil's last name. Chuck, if Chuck's available, you might know. He's the director of the Chuyach Senior Center. I talked to him when this was all going on. The state had scheduled his assisted living for the 24th of January. I talked to the public health director and I raised a little hate and discontent. They got their vaccine yesterday. On the December 20th, ACIP recommended that during phases 1B and 1C, the vaccine should be offered to the following groups. Phase 1B, persons over 75 and frontline essential. 1C, ages 65 to 74, persons 16 to 74 with high-risk medical conditions, and other essential workers. Remember, we're talking a limited quantity. As it's getting better, it's going to get better, but there is still a limited quantity. This following is from the December 22nd meeting of the AVAC. And these are some bullet point remarks from the discussions of that meeting. Agree with ACIP. Big question is how to identify patients with high medical risk conditions for 1C. Agree with the ACIP on phase 1B. Identify which essential workers need it most. ACIP phase 1B criteria misses congregate living centers. All should be included, both residents and staff. And guess one of the major congregate centers that they're talking about? Prisons. Criminals getting over the rest of us.
What? Yeah.
That's what they were recommending.
This committee was recommending?
Yes.
Oh, it's terrible.
Rural priority should be an emphasis on indigenous communities underserved and unserved by sanitation. If you look, I looked at the numbers. Hooper Bay had very small. A lot of these villages had very small because they were locking themselves down. They were doing their own thing. The biggest one that got hit the hardest was Bethel. But that's a major fly in, fly out hub. They kind of got hit on that one. But to turn around and say, okay, well, we're going to, again, social engineer, and that's how I see that. That's my personal opinion. Workers at severe risk of infection or chronic conditions are in the essential worker category. Keep in mind, this is a quote, keep in mind social justice and health equity. People who don't have access to modern sanitation or living space that allows them to protect themselves. Again, social justice and health equity. Agree with emphasis on underserved communities without access to sanitation. The latest number of new vaccines that come in January was 52,900. That's combined Pfizer and Moderna. The Indian Health Services, and this is what we were told by several different people, we're getting their separate allocation. That's not true. They were taking that and taking that allocation out of what the state was getting. So the IHS ended up with like 7,800 Pfizer and 5,500 Moderna. I was talking to Senator Hughes about that. That is actually exceeds percentage-wise of the allocated available vaccines the percentage population of Alaska Natives.
What are they, 18%?
She said I think 13. So this is what's going on. So IHS is supposed to be taking care of it. But the other thing that we've been hearing, I've had this has been brought up in the ECHO meetings I've been at, that the state cannot dictate to IHS how they do it. So IHS, and there's evidence to this, have not been giving it to their elders. They've been giving it to other people, what they consider more essential. How many people that worked in the villages? Anybody?
That worked there?
Yeah, worked out in the villages. Yeah, I know what that means. Because I know that the village health aide and the key elders and the village mayor and those guys, they got the priority. I was in Alacaca for almost 2 years. I got to see that up close and personal. Listen to ACIP. Don't think we could come up with something better. I watched ACIP small group and liked their guidelines. There is an advantage to keeping phase 1B focused and defined so we can get to 1C. Keep 75 and older, high-risk essential workers. Ethics slides. Promote justice and mitigate inequities. Would like an appeals committee or process, found a process that can be considered for appeals. Agree strongly with over 75 in ACIP essential worker category. Would like sub-prioritization with committees without pipe water. Again, where's IHS? ACIP influence how I feel about this. Keep 1B smaller so we can move on. Sub-prioritize population 65 and over in the workforce. Focus on high-risk population in rural. Again, low case numbers. And I'm talking cases, not deaths. And the death numbers are even lower than the case numbers. Vaccinating people at most risk for serious illness allows this to be an illness with mild impacts. Marry the two needs. The more risk people we get, the less this will be a burden on society. The report they did, they broke into small groups to discuss population groups. One of the responses back was focused on maintaining stability of industry and preservation of societal functions. Workers in locations with limited access to health care resources. They're getting it. This one really burned me. Canadian plan discussed adjusting age to 70. However, the burden of disease fourfold higher among individuals above 75. Priority populations for 1B, residents in rural communities that are underserved and underserved by sanitation facilities. Breakdown group 3. This follows what I just said a little earlier. Corrections, prisons, jails include as cognate. Lots of workers are essential. Could we prioritize those with underlying health conditions or those that are very limited? Senator Hughes brought up a really good point. If you got some guy that's out there pushing snow in one of the state's big snow plows, he's by himself, right? But yet he would be an essential worker.
Hardly.
What's making that beep noise?
So,
Me. Anyway. How would we prioritize, operationalize the 75 and older along with the front line? Is there an order in who would go in first in that group? Do we sub-prioritize those groups? Prioritizing 75 and older, this essentially creates Tier 1 and Tier 2. Have tiers within 1B by age. 1B 75 and above. Frontline essential at the start, prioritizing within the group. Like 65 and older teachers, etc. How do we say 75 and older is more vital than essential worker that can't isolate and is underserved? That's probably the only person that actually stood up for seniors. It's the only one.
Thank you, Mike.
Out of multiple pages that I read on their minutes. It's the only one.
Thank you.
And it wasn't me, because I'm not on this committee. AMAC is not on this committee. We were never asked to be on this committee. Trust me, I'm working on that right now. As well as the Commission on Aging. I'm working on that, getting us there.
Thank you.
Underserved might jump above others if there's a lack of vaccine. Uncertain or whether we should address race-based disparities specifically, but the deaths and hospitalizations among people who are Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders is remarkable. Not sure it's right to ignore this group as a priority. Their draft proposed changes was 1B includes the following populations: persons 75 and older, essential workers, frontline workers, which is first responders, education, food and agriculture, manufacturing, corrections workers, U.S. Postal Service, public transit, and grocery store workers. Workers then workers in healthcare settings that did not meet the criteria to be vaccinated in 1A. Potential edits to the 1B was to focus on 75 and above. If you put them together in 1B, it becomes a huge group. They were all worried about that. So the rest of that's kind of repeat. So here's what happened. Kind of trying to maintain the timeline here. This was their minutes for the 22nd. On the 28th of December, there was public comment taken by the AVAAC. Yours truly was one of those people that they only gave us 1 minute to comment. The first person on it was the head of the Anchorage electric company.
IBEW or the?
No, this was the head guy for the electric company in Anchorage. No, in Anchorage. No, there's another one. Yeah.
Except it's all now you get.
Yeah, but anyway, that was they were going. Then we had teachers. Oh my God, we had to have the teachers. Then there was courtroom workers. Then there was legislative. They want legislators. 40-year-old, 50-year-old legislators going to the front of the line. And these were all front of the line testimonies. Every one of them. I have never been so ashamed of my fellow Alaskans as to listening to the selfishness of certain individuals that were commenting. By the time it got to me, this was about 10 or 15 people, I changed my opening because I had it written out for my 1 minute. And I changed my opening to, it is very obvious by this testimony so far that the 140,000 vulnerable Alaskans are being put into the minority. And then I went after him from there. There was a lady right behind me, she was like, I can't say anything better than what he just said. Then it was more me, and more me, and more me. Now, not one person from AARP talked. Not one. There was a total of 5 or 6 people that actually called up and stood for seniors. That was it. So, out of all that, plus, I think they said 300 some odd emails, of which I sent 2 very detailed emails. The ACIP MMWR says public health should be vaccinated in 1C, but no specific mention of politicians that I could find. Other essential workers are critical to this response for functions of government. That this would include legislators, governor, and other critical public health staff. These are emails that they were talking about. Not one of these emails that they list, and there was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not one of them pro-senior. Not one. So, that was on the 28th. I was furious. I was just absolutely livid. Because I had a relationship with Janice Mason, who set up the telephonic with Governor last month, I called her. And I said, look, I really appreciated you getting the governor for us, but I have got to talk to the governor personally. One-on-one. That next day, which was the 30th, which is when the AVAAC was supposed to come out with their recommendations, at 1 o'clock, I talked to the governor. I laid it out. I didn't pull any punches. I was nice. Count that day on your calendar. Mike Coons was nice. But I laid down, I was firm. And the governor said, quote, after I got done, Mike, what do you want me to do? I said, Governor, if the AVAAC comes out with the same stupid recommendations that the CDC is coming out, that you stand with Florida and Texas and South Dakota and Tennessee and Ohio and Colorado and say not no, but hell no, seniors come first. Guess what happened on the 31st, the next day at 3 o'clock? Seniors came first. 65 and older, so there's still a battle. There's still a battle. So this is what they did. They broke it down into 4 different tiers. 4. Tier 1, 65 and older. That's just, there's no quantifiers, there's no criteria to that. It's just 65 and older. Phase 2. Frontline essential workers who are 50 and older and whose work-related duties must be performed on-site and involving close proximity. Now there's a whole list of who that goes to. So that's, we got 50 some odd thousand doses for right now. So a lot of that's going to get ate up with us. Then it's going to go to tier 2. So we're talking. Let's figure, I'm making a guess. This is a guess. This is not based on actual fact. This is my guess. Probably figure about a month for each tier to get through. Tier 1B. Persons 55 to 64. All persons 16 and older living in unserved communities. According to Commission on Aging, seniors are 60 and above. But yet, our fellow seniors 60 to 64 are being put on the back burner into Tier 3. Tier 4. Persons aged 50 and older with 2 or more high-risk conditions. So if you got cancer, you're immunosuppressed. If you have got heart disease, and 60 and above, they have it. There's different things that can be where there's a real higher probability of death with this virus because of those conditions. Then they're down to Tier 4. So what I did, I have sent a recommendation that we change it. Tier 1, 65 and above. Tier 2, 60 to 64, and 50 and above with medical conditions. And Tier 3, 55 to 60, no criteria. I want to get rid of these stupid special interest groups. The other thing in my recommendation is I stand for small businesses. Because I would bet, I don't know the numbers, I have no way of finding out what the numbers are, but I would not be surprised that 60, 75% or above of small business owners are 60 and above. Those are family-run operations. But they're the ones, look at Anchorage. Anchorage is a ghost town. Because of stupidity out of a socialist government, they could give a damn about small business. They're more worried about box stores and public health, and public service, public health, the
Public sector workers.
public sector workers, yes. They're more worried about them. To hell with small business. Those small businesses are dead. Peggy's, I just saw, is trying to come back. They shut their doors.
Who?
Peggy's. Peggy's restaurant there on Merrillfield.
I thought they did open.
They did. They are. But they were. There was the Watchmen that they were done.
Yeah.
I heard Gwenny's is dead. Gwenny's is not coming back. I remember Gwenny's when I first got up here in '94. Great eating place. I loved it. All these places are dead and gone and not coming back. But yet we got this committee that is putting the big box stores and the grocery stores and all these other ones above what? 50 some odd percent or above of our economy is from small business. So I put that in my recommendation.
And the marijuana shops.
And the marijuana shops. Don't forget the marijuana shops.
Oh, yeah.
We can get through this virus, just gotta toke it all away, keep getting high, and you don't worry about that catching us. Because oh my God, the virus can't get through all that smoke. Matter of fact, it just in this aside, I saw this on the news the other day. New York City, Comrade de Blasio. They came out with the deal where no more, it's against city law to smoke cigarettes in apartment buildings.
Wow.
But you can smoke marijuana. You can smoke the wacky tobacco all you want, but you can't smoke a cigarette. I know what I would be doing. I know that I was watching on TV the other day, Dragnet, and they were doing this thing. They had this little pill that they could fire up, and it had the same smell as marijuana. I just get a bunch of those. I'd be firing those up, and if I was a smoker, I'd be not smoking up all I want to, because then all they had to do is when they came by, all they would be smelling is wacky tobacco. That's just me. Then on the 29th of December, they had another meeting. Individual member comments. This is before the governor came down. Like having the 75 plus in Tier 1. No edits. Agree strongly that age trumps others at risk. Agree with adding aviation and cab drivers in remote communities to transit. Follows ACIP recommendations and made it to Alaska. Balance social needs and people at risk. Could we change Tier 1 to 70 plus based on deaths? Make Tier 3 60 to 70. Maybe that might have been AARP. They doesn't say who they made the comments. Given Alaska's diverse and large geography, ABAC and DHSS has adopted the ACIP recommendations to address the specific risk factors for COVID-19 in Alaska's rural and urban communities. In some of its recommendations, ABACC specifically identifies essential workers in small rural communities where the number of personnel available to operate critical infrastructure is limited because of the increased risk to the community functioning. Those individuals are unable to work due to the infection or the need to quarantine. Similarly, ABAC recommends that adults living in communities that are unserved by household water and sanitation receive the vaccine sooner than those with access to household water and sanitation. So, their recommendation on the 29th, Tier 1, persons 60 to 69. All persons 16 and older and living in rural communities. No, that was 3. That was 3. Okay. So 1B, they were wanting frontline essential workers who are persons 70 and above. Then Tier 2 was essential workers. Then Tier 3 was 60 to 69, and Tier 4 was 60 and older with 2 or more health conditions. That's what their recommendation was on the 29th. The Alaska, the ABAC met again on January 5th. Members' comments. You're gonna love this.
Oh, are you asking for comment?
No, this is what members' comments were.
Sorry.
This is on January 5th. I support this change to 65. It makes sense from a mission standpoint. Vaccinate those most vulnerable and those who will burden healthcare the most and is most actionable. Agree with 1B Tier 1 and change and agree with asynchronous approach. Totally agree with change to 65. Agree with 65. Agree with 65. I also support 65. Agree with change to 65. Difficulty. Now this one's a really interesting comment. Difficulty is that perception of the public is often more powerful than the truth of the matter. The perception of the public is more powerful than the truth of the matter. These guys, whoever said this, their truth was CDC. Their truth was social engineering. The public's perception, AMAC, was more powerful than ACIP. We won. So that's where things stand right now when it comes down to this vaccine. Again, I am not going to belittle anybody for not taking the vaccine. That's your choice. I am not going to belittle anybody that's taken the vaccine, and I don't expect to hear anybody doing the same. That's where I'm coming from. Any questions on that before we get into the next one on the election? Is Shelley here yet? Oh, there's Shelley. Come on up here. Shelley, before you say anything, would you stand right here and face the audience, please? To Senator Shelley Hughes, from the Matsu Chapter AMAC Action. Whereas we're standing for not just the people of District F, but all of the Matsu and the state of Alaska. Whereas in doing so, you have stood for the issues near and dear to the mature citizens of Alaska. Whereas we know that you will continue representing all the people of Alaska with even greater wisdom because of the valuable experience that you have gained. Whereas you have always been there to tell it like it is to the Matsu Chapter of AMAC Action meetings and have always answered tough questions. In appreciation, be it known that Senator Shelley Hughes has presented this date the commemorative gold coin of President Donald J. Trump by members of the Matsu Chapter of AMAC Action. Just right, whatever. And this is for you to hang on your wall. By all means.
So thank you all of you. Is this something you all voted on, or did he just make it up?
I did. It's my Air Force upbringing.
So thank you all very much. You're an incredibly important constituency. I'm part of you. I just had my 63rd birthday a couple days ago. Actually, it was on the infamous January 6th date of what happened at the Capitol. So it was an odd day to have a birthday. Just because I came in while you were talking about the vaccines last evening, I don't know if you mentioned it, but I received a press release that there's going to be a vaccination clinic at Raven Hall at the State Fairgrounds Tuesday and Thursday this week and next week. Okay, so good. You have that information. So some of our Matsu delegation has already headed to Juneau. I'm heading down Tuesday. The House has not yet organized. The Senate has not yet organized. And I'm not sure what it's all going to look like. It may, when it comes out, depending how it goes, may look on the surface like maybe the conservatives didn't get their fair shake. But I want you to know on the Senate side, if we pull it off, the agreement and understanding of how we're going to function, it has will decentralize the power, and it will make sure some of the things that went awry in the last couple of years don't happen. So it would provide more of an equal footing for all members. A co-chair, for instance, could not just go rogue and do what he or she wanted, but would have to follow what the caucus wanted. And if you look at the numbers of the caucus, based on what happened in the election cycle in the Senate, we have the upper hand, the conservatives do. So even though when you look at maybe who's in a certain position, you might scratch your head and get nervous and say, why did the conservatives allow that? Well, the Democrats are fighting very hard to try to have a coalition, and so we are doing our best. So all I ask is, when you see it on the surface, have conversations with us, because it may function differently despite the fact that certain people are in certain positions. Does that make sense?
No binding.
No binding caucus is a big part of it. No binding caucus, and doing things also with respect and everyone treated equally. This kind of punishment stuff that went on, that kind of stuff. We're putting up safeguards to prevent all that kind of thing. So so we're doing our best to put together an organization, but the agreement and the understanding and the guidelines that we will have and how we will function will be so different than in previous years if we can pull this off. So we hope that we'll be able to get word out soon. It gets tricky as we transition, because the new date for, even though we gavel in on the 19th, Tuesday the 19th, Monday the 10th is kind of when the for payroll purposes and stuff like that all kicks in on Monday. And so normally you're all set to go and you have things all figured out. Well, we're not quite there, so it's a little bit frustrating and different this time. But it's important. There was a lot of stuff we had to sort out, a lot of stuff we needed to sort out, and we're still sorting out, and we're hoping for the best. But stand by. And, you know, the tendency these days, I think, it's been a frustrating year, right? I mean, this week has been just a tough week. And it's really easy to go quickly and just blast off. But, you know, always give a call. In fact, I'll give you my cell phone number. I don't know how many people have pens. If you see something and you're like, what the heck are they doing? Or why did Shelley, you know, let this happen or whatever, give a call, because there's always a lot of factors to the story. Mike's really good about that, and he's been very understanding over the years. Sometimes, you know, we can't always get exactly what we want, but we're working best for you and for the future of the state. So my cell number is 907-841-1634. So, and the office number is 907-465-3725. So, and that office number, you know, we get pretty busy when we're down in Juneau, and we get pretty inundated. I used to take such pride in being able to answer every single email and every single thing on social media. I literally cannot. It's hundreds daily. I cannot do it, and I actually don't even have the staff to do it. And the crazy thing too about Facebook and Messenger and some of these other avenues, my staff can't access them. And we can't do the follow-up properly. So actually, if you want to reply, and I don't know about the rest of the delegation, but for me, if you want to get my feedback, probably calling is best, that office number. And we can even set up a time, you know, when I'm in between committee meetings to have a conversation.
You're still going to have the Facebook Live?
Well, yeah, we'll probably be doing those Facebook Lives. I don't know when we'll kick those off. I've taken a break from those because I was, you know, in a campaign, right. And then just all the focus nationally. I didn't feel like I needed to clutter up the airspace, but you need to know what's going on once we're in Juneau, so we will kick those off again. So,
Shelley, could you repeat those numbers?
Yeah, sure. So cell number is 907-841-1634. And office number is, I hope I'm giving the right office number, 465-3, I think I said 3725. It's actually 3743.
I got it right here.
You have it?
I have it. Well, trust me.
I don't call my office
I know
number.
you don't call yourself.
I don't call my office number much. I call my
yourself.
staff's cell phones.
You call yourself.
Yeah.
Damn it.
See, I think the local number is 376-3725. That's the Matsu office. And I think the Juneau office is 907-465...
465-3743.
3743, so I apologize, I gave that wrong the first time. So are there any questions, or? Yes?
I have a question, because it's not about this, it's about the discrimination with all the vaccine stuff. It looks like down the road we're going to be not enough, but absolutely you must take it before you can fly, before you can do anything else. We're going to be forced to take it whether you want it or not. Can we do something along those lines to prevent that?
Well, you know, private businesses have the right to say no shirt, no shoes, no service. And so we have, you know, normally the conservative way is we allow businesses to make their decisions. So that's going to be interesting if we step in and tell businesses, you know, that's like saying you have to, a church has to hire somebody who doesn't agree with them.
We have a right to be able to move from one place to another. Our ability to travel is a constitutional right.
Good point.
And if we can't leave Alaska, they've taken our constitutional right away from us.
Good point. Well, maybe somebody will have to start an airline that doesn't require it. I don't know. Those are things we'll be sorting through, and that's actually going to end up being, because that crosses state lines, is going to be a federal issue rather than a state issue. I do want to say this guy did a lot to help get the age down to 65, and you ought to be aware of what he put into that. He was one of the ones who called me about it. And I was immediately in direct communication with the governor and Commissioner Crum, and just laid out the case. You know, if you're so worried about capacity in the hospitals, you protect the vulnerable. It's crazy that you're going to protect young, healthy people that you call essential. You need to protect the vulnerable, and so but Mike did a really good job going after that, and he got some of us in direct contact with those who needed to hear that as well. So there were a lot of voices weighing into that, but his was a big one. So and that represents AMAC. So good on you. Is there anything else?
Just a question on the Ravenhall vaccination meeting. Who is that intended for?
Anybody that's eligible, which would be 65 and older. And we did get a note, from the governor's folks last night that please be patient, because as they're putting together the website and everything, because like somebody was wanting to go to Carr's Pharmacy for it, and Carr's wasn't yet listed, and I don't know if that was the state didn't get the information posted yet, or Carr's didn't get the information to the state to post. I don't know where but they're building it as quickly as they can. There are hundreds of providers across hundreds of communities across the state, so they're trying to roll it out. So you have to keep looking, because it'll change a little bit, and you're going to hit some bumps. There is a phone number that they provide where if you have problems online, that they will help you. So yeah.
And I talked to Fred Meyer the other day. They're completely booked till the end of the month.
Yeah.
In
Palmer. Yeah, the Ravenhall thing is going to be there. I think 2,500 spots maybe, but 1,000 through the Matsu Public Health are first in line if they want it. So, but there's still quite a few left. You see, I'm wearing a mask. I'm not convinced these do a lot, but as I said last time, I'm pro-life from in the womb all the way through mature Americans and mature Alaskans. And even though I'm not sure they do so much, I really want to respect those people that believe that they do and have health conditions. So that's where I am, but you are free to do whatever you so choose. So, and I've had COVID, I mentioned that last time too, which I am looking forward to when they come out and say once you've had COVID that you're not contagious. They still won't say that. My physician is convinced that I'm not contagious, but I still have to go through rigorous screening. I'm going to test actually today, and then before I'm allowed in the state capitol on Wednesday, I have to retest, and every 3 days I'll have to retest. So I'll be glad when this stuff settles down.
Before you leave, show of hands, please, of who would like to see Shelley Hughes as Senate President.
I wish I had that kind of support in the Senate, but yeah.
Call
unanimous.
Your senators. Shelley Hughes, Senate President.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you very much, and thank you for this. I appreciate it. We'll see you.
Okay. Does anybody need to make a bathroom break before I get into the elections? Okay. I wrote this out, and you know me, I can do a lot of things extemporaneously. But this one I wanted to write down because I want to make sure that this is straightforward and there's no mistake. I wanted to look at what I was going to say before I said it. It's kind of like, engage your brain before you engage your mouth. I have a real bad tendency of doing the opposite in the past years. So this is what I said. I'm making my comments as your president of the Matsu chapter of AMAC Action and as an individual. I'm doing this from a written verse extemporaneous because I want to be very accurate and to ensure that my comments cannot be construed by Facebook and YouTube as calling for or encouraging any form of violence or calling for or condoning a civil war. I am not. Be very specific. I am not calling for violence or civil war. What happened this election will go down in history, if we have truthful historians writing that history, as a turning point for this nation to the worse. The outright fraud, the cover-up of that fraud, was done by the socialists that perpetuated that fraud. It was then made worse by weak-kneed governors and secretaries of state and lieutenant governors and the legislators that refused to call a special session. They had mountains of evidence to review and then decide to stop the theft by the criminals that caused it. If the governors had stood with the legislators, who then would have changed back the vote tallies prior to the criminal actions, the Congress would have gotten electoral votes that President Trump would have then won 4 more years as our president. Then we had, sadly, a handful in the Senate and solid conservatives in the House whom actually stood for the Constitution and opposed the fraudulent electoral votes. Senator Cruz and others tried to have a commission of 5 Republicans, 5 Democrats, and 5 justices from SCOTUS to review the actual mounds of evidence, and then when the facts showed the fraud, to send back to those states to change the electoral votes from Biden to Trump. This was done, it was either in 1867 or 1876. So there's precedence. Sadly, as time went on, it became painfully apparent that those that we had just elected, as well as others whom had a long disdain for the president and a history of not protecting the Constitution, were not going to do so. Sadly, that includes Congressman Don Young and Senator Dan Sullivan, with Lisa Murkowski being a Trump hater from the beginning. As we all know, yesterday, Lisa has now called for the president to resign and indicated that she will switch parties to a Democrat and I will be the 51st vote. Even sadder was that the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, did not intend to stand for the Constitution and the precedents that Senator Cruz was advancing, much less not accepting the fraudulent electoral votes. So, the rally on January 6th was needed to show our resolve for our election process and the clear winner, Donald J. Trump. So I, like a lot of you, watched what happened. Hundreds of thousands, if not 1 million patriots showed up in what I believe to be one of the most dangerous and socialist-run cities in the United States, Washington, D.C. A place where past rallies were met with Antifa attacking Trump supporters with not one conviction of those attackers for assault and battery. Nothing in the news, so the natural assumption is no one has seen jail time. Those 1 million patriots heard from other patriots, including Donald Trump Jr. and the president himself. Then, as planned, those same patriots marched on the Capitol like so many other protesters have done in our history. Martin Luther King, all those people, they marched to the Capitol. Why were we any different? It was known by the Capitol Police DC cops that Antifa and BLM were expected to infiltrate the patriots. Facial recognition, as of this writing, is showing that in fact there were those that entered the Senate chambers and attacked the Capitol Police or Antifa or BLM.
No question about that, Mike?
No question. And this is an added to. The FBI, the deputy director of the FBI is now saying that there is no evidence of Antifa and BLM.
Right.
Does anybody believe, show of hands, how many people believe in the FBI today? I see none. Then as planned, those same patriots marched on the Capitol like so many others protests have done in history. It was known by the Capitol. Sadly and wrongfully, in my opinion, our patriots followed in to the Capitol building behind Antifa and BLM, not knowing. Kind of mob rule. You look at the psychology of that. Wasn't totally surprising. I saw several videos of those who were peacefully taking pictures with their cell phones as they walked through the rotunda. They weren't vandalizing. They weren't raising hell. They weren't attacking people.
But in a sense, Mike, they were trespassing?
Yes, they were trespassing. So, were they wrong in doing this? Were they wrong in doing this? Do we have the right to be in our own property? That's our property. That's our house. Do we not have the right under the First Amendment to state our grievances to our government?
Absolutely.
As to the second and third question, the answer is an unequivocal yes. As to the first, based on the volatility and seeing the Antifa BLM thugs attacking the police, continuing on in my opinion, was the wrong move. At that point, disengaging would have been the smarter move. I was not there, and this is from an armchair observer, in my opinion, and not without the emotion that was going on. I have seen the raw video of the Air Force vet that got shot and killed. All I see, and if you haven't seen that video, there's a Capitol Police or a Secret Service that needs to be going to federal prison for the rest of their life. That was a killing. They weren't even in the doorway. She was on the outside of the doorway. Everybody was on the outside of the doorway. And the video even shows Capitol Police were there with him with AR carbines. She was on the right side of the door. All you see is a hand with apparently might have probably a Glock, knowing how they work, taking aim, firing. She drops. Shot her in the neck. And I didn't see one Capitol Police officer giving her medical aid. Not one.
Possibly a plant or a setup.
We don't know. The person that shot, that was definitely federal. Because they were inside the House chamber. So this wasn't anything outside the House chamber.
They were in plain clothes.
They were in plain clothes. I have seen, all I see on even OANN is the story of the officer that died. Not a word about her or the other deaths from being trampled, from having a heart attack. Both deaths, or all deaths, were needless, period. I want the killers prosecuted to the full extent of the law. I want those that brought pipes and other weapons and harmed the Capitol Police and law enforcement arrested and prosecuted as well. And there's a lot of information that's being reported by OANN specifically that there were people there with bats and pipes. And that's only one person that does that. Only one group that does that. Antifa and BLM. Those arrests for prosecutions will be enough, in my view. Now, as to what will happen after 20 January, as we all know, it's going to be a virtual inauguration with a virtual president. It's going to be really interesting.
With a virtual parade.
And a virtual parade. I guess Antifa can't go burning cars like they did 4 years ago that way. What with the socialists in power in the Senate, what can we expect? Chucky Schumer on tape said, "We take Georgia, we change the world." He said that prior to putting on his mask for the reporters. And then he said, "We take Georgia, then we change America." What he said first was what he meant. I despise him, but I believe him. Dianne Feinstein has said that if she has the votes, she will repeal the Second Amendment and or make all firearms unlawful. She said that on the Senate floor several years ago in a heated gun control debate. Like Chucky, I believe her. Now, unless by some divine intervention, the fraud that happened in this race, and we get Perdue and Lawfer back into the Senate, what Chucky said will come to pass. The media comments that Joe Manchin and Senator Tester out of, I think, Montana, will not vote for stopping the filibuster and impacting the courts, gun confiscation, etc. That, I believe, are pipe dreams. I say that because they have said that with other votes, and they voted straight party line, because that's what Democrats do. The big question is whether Biden and Harris, and make no doubt, Harris will be the president in the next few months. Get what they want will happen then. Again, going back to my opening, so that Facebook's so-called fact checkers and the socialists in YouTube, I am not advocating an uprising. What I will do is ask the question, what if? And what do we do here in Alaska? If God forbid that this does turn into an insurrection or civil war, Alaska's ability to get food, supplies, fuel, etc. from the lower 48 will be gravely impacted. How do we survive? Well, what will our ability to function be like? Sadly, we have pretty much zip in gasoline production. You think that China's virus run on toilet paper was bad? How about the November earthquake when people went nuts and cleaned out the grocery stores? If this is to get to a civil war, will Alaska secede from the Union? Then what? Lots of unanswered questions that need to be thought of for our own well-being in that event. I do believe that the last 6 months will be historic, and potentially our nation will be harmed like it has never been harmed before. Will we be a free nation, or will we lose those freedoms like so many others in the world lost theirs? What I, you, our state, and our nation does is in God's hands. God bless us all and protect us, because I truly believe we need that protection. And that's my statement. Any questions? Nick.
Benjamin Franklin said it. He gave us a contingency, and I guess we can answer it now. We gave you a republic if you can keep it.
Anybody else? Anybody else?
Be cautious when you talk about this stuff, because people will construe just your harmless remarks as advocating civil war.
Well, I don't.
So
That's why I caveated very strong.
It doesn't matter.
I know it doesn't matter, because the socialists, since I'm a conservative, that I am the bad
Exactly. You'll be hauled to the door.
Antifa is the terrorist.
Yep.
Black Lives Matter is the terrorist. The anarchists are the terrorists. And by God, I'm willing to fight. If those people want to fight, they don't want to tangle with me.
I'll play the devil's advocate.
Yes, go ahead.
For those of us that are unwilling to give up our firearms, what option do you see? What foreseeable option do you see? If you really believe that she's going to try to take them, what options do we have?
In Alaska,
Yeah, I'm in Alaska.
we're not giving them up. We're not going to give them up.
I was talking to my oldest son yesterday, I think it was yesterday. We kind of talked about this, and he lives in Florida. It's an open carry state also. And I said, okay, and I said, what are you going to do? What are we going to do if it does come to power and they ask us? And he said, you just tell them I don't have any. How are they going to prove it? How are they going to prove it?
Well, they're going to come in your door.
Yeah.
No.
Without warrants.
Yep, without warrants.
Without warrants. And that's when this nation...
The guns are going to start firing. That's
Yeah,
the
Mine all
problem.
fell out of the boat. It was either in the Connecticut or the Mississippi or the Nile. I can't remember which one.
That, you know, they're not going to be able to, they won't take your guns away. They don't have to take them away. All they have to do is ban ammunition. Pretty quick, you won't be able to buy, you already almost can't buy any reloaded supplies. There's no ammo on the shelves, and so they don't care how many guns you got. If you don't have the ammo and you can't get the ammo, you ain't shooting.
Right.
And I mean, that's all it takes. You can't,
There's people that
you
have
can't
vast
go anywhere.
stockpiles. There's vast stockpiles even here in Alaska.
Yeah, but
I
there
know
is-
people that have tens of thousands of members.
Yeah,
But
I
you
do
still
too.
can't- you
I've
still
got
can't
30 pounds
defeat
of gunpowder, but I can't replace
Hey,
it.
But then, you know, this is, I'm not gonna say anything that's gonna foment
Right.
violence. But I know damn well, for me, if I've got a ATF agent who comes to my door without a warrant, there's going to be trouble. And the old saying goes, out of my cold dead hands.
Yep.
That's where it's going to boil down. That's just my.
Not on this, but on the subject of what happened on the 6th. Did you notice that the one guy that was helping put up barricades in the Senate, I believe it was, they brought up that he was not wearing a mask. Not that he was trying to save people's lives. He wasn't wearing a mask. And this guy was working his ass off, so you know how he's breathing. He didn't wear a mask. It was on, I believe, CNN.
Commons News Network, what can you say?
I have a comment. I stay on Facebook to see what the garbage is going on, to stay up on top of the liberals and whatnot. There's an Alaska Facebook group that's called Alaskans in Washington, D.C. for January 6th. If you're not on it, you need to get on it. Because those are people that were there from Alaska, and they were there as conservatives, and they gave a true picture of what happened. And more so than any of the crap we've seen on TV, on liberal TV, or what they've shown us on OAN or Newsmax. There's actual accountings of what happened. And it was peaceful until Antifa and the BLM got involved.
Now, I want you to talk about what we were talking about earlier. David Eastman was there. He wasn't inside the Capitol building, he was out. There are members of the legislature that are calling him to be not allowed in the Capitol.
Treason. I think he should be charged with treason.
Yeah. That's, and David stands for the Constitution like nobody, probably anybody I know of. And so that's something. But I want this young lady who needs to bring us something from last month.
When the elections were coming up, I had received in the mail absentee ballots for myself and my husband who had passed away 2.5 years ago. So I took the ballots to the Office of Elections, and they said, oh, we didn't send those out. That's sent out by the Republican Party. So I called the Republican Party, and they said, no, the Office of Elections sends those out. So anyway, so this all went on, could not get any answers. And Senator Mike Showers had posted on Facebook, if anyone felt they had been subjected to any sort of
Electioneering.
election fraud, would you please comment or get a hold of me? So I said, well, I don't think it was, I prevented it from being election fraud, but I did have an incident. If you would like to talk to me, I will I'll messenger you my phone number. So he said, please send me your phone number. So a couple of weeks later, I heard from him, and he is one hot dude. He is so mad. And he asked me a bunch of questions about what happened. I told him, I said, I went and voted in person. My husband's been gone for 2.5 years. This is how election fraud happens. It ticks me off. I don't want this happening. So I'm talking to you. We need to stop this crap. We need to get rid of these stupid Dominion machines. People need to vote in person or by authorized absentee ballot. I said, the fraud's got to stop. And he's talking to me, and he's pounding his fist on the table. I can hear him. And then he started coughing, and he said, sorry, I'm sick. And I said, well, I hope you don't have COVID. And he says, already had it, not worried about it. They're making too big of a deal out of it, which was his opinion. Anyway, he asked me to call the elections office and see if I had voted, if my husband had voted, and to let him know. And I said, well, I'll do one better than that. I'll go to the elections office in Wasilla and find out. Well, they're closed due to COVID. To me, they're essential workers, and especially in this time of this election being so screwed up. They should be in their office doing their jobs and answering questions. So for 2 weeks, I've tried to call the elections of office of elections. Nobody will answer the phone.
Unusual.
So I will contact Senator Showers and say, I cannot get anyone to answer the phone. You know, I tried, I don't know what to do. Maybe you can get through to them and have them call me or something, but nobody will answer the phones. Also, on that same note, my son and daughter-in-law bought a house. It had had 2 previous different owners. They got 4 ballots, 2 for each of the previous owners. My son travels all over the state. He had requested an absentee ballot and did not get one. Luckily, he was in town and was able to vote in person, but he never received one. But he did get 4 absentee ballots in the mail that were from the previous people that had previously owned the house they live in now. So that's what I have to say. I will say, if you get a hold of Senator Showers, he will get a hold of you. I've talked to him 2 or 3 different times now, and I have as much faith in him as I do with Shelley Hughes. You know, they're straight up. He's as humble and common a person as you could hope to talk to.
Poor Fulbright Colonel.
Pardon me?
Poor Fulbright Colonel.
Anyway, I really like the guy, and I think he's after our best interests. So, thank you.
That makes me want to move out here from Anchorage.
You know, Mike, just, this is not like that, but I had a problem where I went to the ER, and they put me in a cast, and it was crazy. So I wanted it off because the finger went to working. I go in and I say, I want to get this cast off, and they say, wait, I went to AFOC because that's where I go. They said, well, we can't touch it unless you have your records. So I go to records at Humana, or regional now. They ain't open. And it says, there's right there on the door, it's got a phone number. I called that phone number. This was in, I believe, November. They have not called me to this day.
And your cast is on.
Well, I went up to the ER and I said, I want this damn thing off. And the doctor said, why? And I told him, I said, there's nothing the matter. I said, the finger works. He took it off. Now, but my cardiologist, who I talked to after that, he said, you're going to pay for that because it wasn't an emergency. I haven't seen the bill yet.
I can test it. Okay, it's after 1. We really went, what time's it?
10 till 7 till.
Okay, yeah, we've gone a little bit long. Folks, I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. We need you to stay on top of what's going on nationally and in Juneau. I know this last 4 years, especially talking to anybody, or these last 2 years, especially talking to anybody in the House, has been a waste of time because we knew that was controlled by Nancy Pelosi. And now with the Senate, it's going to even be worse. But they still need to hear from you. Call them and get in their case
and get them to know your name and know your voice. They may not do anything, those guys down there. And I'm not really a real happy camper with Dan Sullivan right now. But, yes, ma'am.
Just before I came out, I'm from Anchorage. On my email was this long reply to all of our emails from Dan Sullivan, making all kinds of excuses.
It was on Facebook also.
Was it? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right now the only good thing about Dan Sullivan and me is I was told by his staff that anytime I call up, my name is brought up in staff meetings. And of course, my question was, is that in a positive or a negative? But the thing is, and they didn't answer. But the bottom line of it is, not just state, not just federal. Because right now, the only silver lining is we're short 5 in the U.S. House. And we got some really good people that just got elected. That young man out of North Carolina, he's a firecracker.
That one woman from New York.
There's another lady from New York. There's the lady from Colorado that carries concealed in the Capitol.
Yeah.
I saw her speaking the other day against when they were doing the stuff about the election. She's a firecracker. She is a firecracker. She did 4 minutes and just slam bam, thank you ma'am. And she is like bam 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 bam. She's like a machine gun going off. And then she lets this other guy do his minute. She's a really up and coming. So we got, the thing is, the potential is, as these socialists screw this nation up so bad, that if we still have elections in the next 2 years, that we can take back the House. What happens to the Senate? If they get Puerto Rico and D.C., we're screwed. When it comes to the Senate, I'm just sorry, we're done when it comes to the Senate. But I think we have the potential of taking back the House. And McCarthy is a fighter. And so is Nunes. And Cruz. And Jordan. And right on down the line. We got fighters in there. They're fighting. In spite of our weaklings. And it's all we can really do. I mean, it's really frustrating that I've said here for the last 6 months or so, every time Lindsey Graham gets on Sean Hannity's show, he's talking about, I need money because I'm being outspent. And he's talking for the entire United Nations. If it doesn't matter if you're from South Carolina, I need your money. Try calling his office. If you're not a South Carolina, they'll hang up on you. But he'll take your money. I don't trust Lindsey Graham as far as I can pick him up and throw him. Well, he was a big buddy with John McCain.
He never was with the damn...
No, he never was. Now, and then he turns around and says, "Oh yeah, I'm for Trump," until, wait a minute. I heard what he said on the floor of the Senate that night. It was a wuss. I can say a few other key words, but there's ladies present. I don't trust him at all. But I have called Senator Johnson, and they've taken my comments. He's a good one out of Minnesota. I have called Ted Cruz. I've called Hawley. I've called, right on down the line, there's the good ones. I've called them, and I've talked to their staff, and I've laid it out. And what I do is I say, look, you're a senator for your state, but everything that you do impacts the entire United States. So I really hit him on that. Same thing with the House. Call them. Lay it out. Don't be obnoxious. Don't yell and scream. Don't act a fool. Let the other side do that. But be forceful, be straightforward, and be factual. Now, for the state side, they're going to have committee hearings. And with this legislative lockdown, we're not going to be able to go, even if you can get down to June, you're not going to be able to get in to the committee hearings to speak.
Which is illegal.
Which I think, well, I know what Shelley was saying. I think she's going to fight like crazy, and so is Cathy. But still, they have to have the committee hearings. And there's still such a thing as the telephone. And you still have the ability of doing a 2 to 5 minute testimony. And you still have the ability to write them. And you can send them 10 pages if that's what you want to do. But you need to do it. Because the only way they listen is when they get inundated. And it has to be straightforward. It has to be factual. It has to be solid. The last example I'll leave you with is Palmer. When they wanted to come up, this nice little socialist down there wanted to come up with a mask mandate. What did we do? 60 some odd, Politadick, he was there.
68%.
68% of the people that either showed up in person or sent in emails was not no, but hell no. And Sabrina, who was the biggest socialist on that bunch, even said that she had, although she wanted to go with the mandate, that she had to go with the majority. Even she did that. The other three didn't. The boy toy, as I like to call them, and the two other women, they all voted, for it. But we still won. But the way we won was 600 and some odd emails, 3-1 against it. Yes, Politadick.
We won because Edna, mayor of Palmer, demanded that they read every single one of those emails and be able to show that it was not what the populace said that they wanted us to do, like we hear from all of our legislators over and over again, but showed what the actual reality was of our action of emailing, testifying, and everything else. Something that our legislators in Juneau disguise all the time by saying, we had an overwhelming population of Alaska say this is what we wanted, but if they were to actually show the numbers for how many people email, phone called in, gave testimony either verbally or written, the opposition, the majority is always a lot larger than what the minority that they're highlighting to everyone else. And Edna did a darn good job of making sure the majority finally got heard over the minority.
And she did. And that's the only government assembly I've ever seen do that. It took them, 4 days? Four different meetings.
4 different meetings, yes.
To get that through. And it had an impact. So the same thing goes with state legislatures. The same, for those of you that happen to live in the People's Democratic of Anchorage, you guys are doing a hell of a job. I got to take my hat off to you. You guys really are. You're putting the heat on them. They're hurting. The recalls, I think they just put in, they had more than enough signatures for recall. Yeah. You guys are fighting, and you're fighting hard, and you're fighting right, you're fighting smart. And you're going to these assemblies, and when you can get in, you're really laying it on the line. You're making them squirm in their seat. And that's exactly what we need to do. We don't want to make them squirm in their seat because they're afraid that they're going to get their butt kicked. But they should be squirming in their seat because they know that they're no longer going to be in that position whenever that new election comes down the pike.
Got some great candidates there. Dave
And there's, yeah, you got
voting machines,
I'm not sure. And then you got mail-in voting in Anchorage. So you guys are doing a phenomenal job. So this is what activism is about, folks. This is what people's activism, grassroots activism is all about. But you got to write. You've got to call. You've got to look at basis on the state and see what bills are coming up, like the ones I read to you. See what those bills are about. Learn how to read a bill. It's like watching paint dry sometimes, but you learn how to do it, and you find out what does it really mean. What's the side effects? What's it really saying versus what the inferred is going to be? Is this a good thing or a bad thing? And then when you talk to these guys, either one-on-one, committee hearings, or writing, you know what's in that bill, and you're writing about what's in that bill. And you can factually support that bill, or you can factually oppose that bill. It's not, and I've heard Bill Wilkowski. Everybody know who Bill Wilkowski is. Bill Wilkowski once told me when I first got into this whole thing, this is before AMAC even, he said that when I called in, no, it wasn't Bill, it was one of my representatives at the time, or one of my senators. The comment was made that when I call into a committee hearing, even Bill Wilkowski stops doing what he's doing and he perks up and he listens. To me, that says a lot. So I knew that I was making headway. When I went down to Juneau one time and I got introduced, Bill Wilkowski came up to me and thanked me for what I was doing. He says, "You're a real strong advocate." I looked around and said, who are you talking to? But he said that, he said, "I don't agree with you all the time." And I said, "Yeah, I don't agree with you either." But he listens. And I told him, I said, I just saw a video of a Maryland committee that they were yelling at each other, that this one person was trying to put forward an amendment and the chair would not even recognize the call for the amendment. I said, I have never once heard that at our state capitol. And I said, you and I, and this was before this last 4 years. Okay. We quantify that. I told Bill, I said, I appreciate the fact that you're a gentleman. You and I completely disagree on policy. And I said, I know you're going to disagree with my bill that I'm putting forward, that I'm trying to get pushed forward. But we're going to talk about it as adults, and I know that, and I appreciate that. And he's remembered that. I even had Edgman at the time come up to me and want to talk to me about the budget, and that I was a community leader. Again, I looked around and said, who are you talking to? Because I didn't think I was. I still don't think I am. I'm just a guy. Just happened to be head of our AMAC chapter. I'm counting on you guys. One of the things, matter of fact, I had an interview by AMAC. I don't know if you guys saw. They sent out, the interview that they did with me. I said my biggest push for this next year is to get people to take action and write and call and be activists. That's the biggest headache, because it's one thing for me to call into a committee hearing and say, my name is Mike Coons and I'm the president of AMAC chapter, or the Matsu chapter of AMAC Action. That's okay, I get ears perking up. It's another thing if you call up and say, I'm an AMAC member. You call, I'm an AMAC member. You call, I'm an AMAC member. If we have a dozen AMAC members calling up and saying the same thing and standing for that or against that bill, and I'm an AMAC member, after I said I'm the president of the AMAC chapter, that's going to go further. I had Tammy Wilson, was it last year, made the comment, because I called in, I was representing AMAC, representing you. And she goes, well, have you been authorized to say this by your AMAC membership? Now, she's never said that once about an AARP. She never once said that about an ACLU. She never once said that about any other organization. Oh my God. Did you get authorization? Is this what your membership agrees to? Matter of fact, that very next meeting, I came back and asked again, do you guys want me to represent you?
Hell yes.
And I got hell yes.
Absolutely.
This is my third hell yes. And she backed off. Because I really came down on her. I came down on her hard. And I've always liked Tammy up until that point. Until she switched over to the dark side. But I guess that's what that's what we need you guys to do. Tell your friends. Get involved and write and call and stand in their face. Shelley, I've known Shelley since she was a representative. She's one hell of a lady. And one hell of a legislator. I will not call her a politician. Although she knows how to be political. But she's a hell of a legislator. Cathy Tilton's another one. I hope like hell that she becomes the Speaker of the House. Not making any bets on it, but that's who I'm pushing for. We got a bunch of good ones. We got Holland. I think he's gonna be a mover and shaker. South Anchorage? He took Kathy Giesel's spot. You got other people, the new senators, the new representatives in Anchorage. You got some good ones.
Kaufman. McCabe.
Carpenter. Carpenter's an up and comer. So these people are the people that we need to be talking to and supporting and letting them know that we support what their policies are, what they're trying to put forward as policy. That's all. So that said, Robert's still not here? Okay.
I told you, because he told me.
Yeah. I was just kind of hoping that he was. Let me see. I've got.
Anybody wants that address?
Okay, I've got one. Oh, Politadick. Come up here.
I've actually listened to her.
Now I didn't write this up for him because I didn't know his full name and I didn't want to put it on the air. But Politadick, thank you so much for that camera and that ability to get our word out. I know for a fact we've gained more people in membership and we've gained more people watching AMAC and understanding what we're standing for. And with that, I want to give you this commemorative silver coin from President Trump.
Well, thank you.
Gary, get up here. I didn't write up one either, but this guy's been around since we started. He's been here all the time. Driven in from Anchorage all the time. I've never once heard you bellyache about driving from Anchorage. So, here's your coin. Thank you. So, with that said, February 13th, same place, same time, we're going to have fun again. I am trying to work on getting commissioners. I'm still working on some other things that I've been trying to get done. Yes, sir?
When is Lisa Wilkowski up for reelection?
1 year and 9 months.
But who's counting?
And I don't know how many days, but if I figure that out, I'll start saying it too.
Mike,
Yes, ma'am.
that was one of the things I wanted to ask you. If she's up for election, what, year and 9 months, you say? And she's switching over to the Democratic Party. Is she still up for election?
Yes.
Okay, so she'll probably run as a Democrat?
What I believe that she all of a sudden switched back to Republican, you better believe. She is a snake.
How can she do that?
She can.
How? How can you do that?
Well, all you got to do is declare yourself. Yes.
With ranked choice voting,
With
it
ranked-
doesn't matter
Yeah,
anymore.
and then with ranked choice voting, this is going to really get interesting.
Okay.
And if we get, then fortunately this is going to courts. God knows. Oh, and let me leave this with you too. I wrote a piece on Facebook the other day, and basically, but to me, the election process and our judicial system are dead to me.
Or what?
Our judicial system,
Or what?
judicial,
They're dead, is that what?
dead to me.
Dead to me, yeah.
Dead to you.
Dead.
Dead.
DEAD. I don't trust our judicial system as far as I can pick them up and throw them. I don't trust our electoral system either. I'm sorry to say that, but what was happened when the U.S. Supreme Court won't hear Texas and 20 some odd states?
Apparently nobody has standing.
Nobody has standing. The president doesn't have standing. The states don't have standing. They got signed affidavits that damn tall. Oh, well, there's no evidence. We're not even going to read it. We're not even going to view it. I think it was it Wisconsin? They wouldn't even read them. It was the lower courts wouldn't even read them. As long as that's going on, our judicial system, we're in trouble.
Let me throw something out here. We've all seen this history unfolding as it goes, right? You got to ask yourself the question, how come somebody does a 180-degree turn right away, no matter what they are, whether they're in the Senate or the House or the courts? The globalist, and I don't want to get into that, but has a lever under most everybody's ass. They're either blackmailed, they're either bought off, or they're threatened. Okay? They are compromised in some way. So when the rubber gets down to the road, they put the switch on, boom, we don't want to hear the case. Why not? Because my family's life is more important than hearing that case. Or passing that bill, or that tax, or whatever it is. How many politicians are not compromised? One hand, I think I can count them on, the ones that I look at. Ted Cruz would be one of them. Okay, Mike Shower would be another one.
Holly.
All right. Think about that. How many ways are there to put a lever under somebody? David Eastman isn't compromised as far as I can tell. But you know there's pressure put on these people.
I guess so.
Where does your family live? How much money do you need? Okay?
Can we send Antifa to your house to try to break into your door with your daughter and your wife? I tell you, that was anybody else, there'd have been bullets flying through that door.
There's lots of places to hide a body in Alaska.
Exactly. Or down in Louisiana, where the crocodiles grow.
How about Epstein? How many people got down to Epstein's little island?
Yeah.
Okay? And now guess what? You're going to dance to whatever tune they say.
That's why we got to fight. This is a full-on fight, folks. That's a full-on fight. We got to do it lawfully and legally. And the only way we're going to, and after that,
Legally when you can't trust the judge.
I know, and after that, Katie barred the doors.
Okay.
1770s.
If they come in your door illegally, Mike, I hope you call me because I will show up.
I will.
I don't know where he lives.
Doesn't matter, you tell me and I will show up.
I think we're safe here in Alaska.
Yeah.
If this was Walker as governor, I wouldn't say that. Or this was Begich as governor, I wouldn't say that. But I think Mike would put a stop to that in a
I
heartbeat.
don't think he's got a lever under his butt.
Not when it comes down to coming into our door to take away our property.
He could have pulled those people out of Juneau.
I know.
And brought them up here and set a precedence, but he backed off.
I know. There's some things that I wasn't happy either. But anyway, folks, we could go on forever.
But see you next month, same time, same place.
When are you gonna start meeting in Palmer?
As soon as they open up.
Oh, they haven't opened it.
Nope. The Chugiach Senior Center has not opened up.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, that's the only reason we're here, because that's why Chuck got his coin too. Because we were able to.
Well, Shelley and the American, the Republican Peninsula is gonna be at the Sunshine Grill, maybe about 3 hours once a month.
Where do you live?
Thank you, my fellow Alaskans, for tuning in today. It's really appreciated. It was a long one. It was an interesting one to watch and listen to. I was glad I was able to participate a little bit there. It was a real honor to receive that coin for just showing up and live streaming these events. Like I always try to do, make sure you guys get to see it unedited and live, and so that you guys can make up your own opinions on what's being said, not just listening to what the mainstream media has to tell you. Started my first of the legislative, for the 32nd legislative session yesterday by live streaming the House Finance's first talks for the new 2021-2022 House, or should say the state and capital budget for both the House and the Senate, the proposed one by the governor. Again, appreciate you guys all staying here today. Politadick is not responsible for anything that was said during this video today by the speakers that were here. They are their own opinions and their own commentary on what is going on within the world. It is always great to hear seniors talking up for other seniors, especially here in Alaska. Matsu chapter is one of the largest chapters in the Alaska, and it's always good to participate and help out our community like this. Go to my website, politadick.com, click that donate button. I am looking to be able to start live streaming to all of the social media channels out there at one time, but I need your help to be able to do it. Without your donations, I won't be able to afford to be able to use these extended live streaming services that will be able to nail every social channel that you can possibly think of that will allow onto the connection of being able to do it. But I need your help, your donations to be able to do it. It is a monthly fee type contract or a yearly fee for a slightly reduced amount. But if you don't pay it, you don't get the services. So go to my website, politadick.com, click that donate button. Be most appreciated. Have yourself a great afternoon.
I'd rather spend the rest of my life in prison than no money.